Hello together. Thank you for watching. I'm Mark Mittag from Translate5. I'm project head of Translate5. And now I hand over to Ian.
Hi, my name is Ian Barrow. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Oxford Conversis Limited. I'm also the developer of a translation plugin for Figma. Figma.
Yeah, and what we have done and why is we developed connection between Figma and Translate5 to be able to automatically transfer content from Figma to Translate5 and develop it in Translate5 as an open source translation environment based on terminology and translation memory and machine translation integration with the workflow. And you can, in difference to other translation tools, you can do that with a complete visual context, meaning that you have it, what you see is what you get, context where you see what you're doing in the translation and how it will look like in Figma. And this is what Ian will show you now.
Cool. Yes, so we developed this plugin earlier on in the year, I think when we started with the Translate5 relationship. And the idea is to transfer the content out of, as Mark said, out of here. So I'll just basically run through it step by step. We'll do a complete round trip, and hopefully so that way you can see how it works. Okay. And then afterwards, I'll show you how to actually get the plugin itself into your Figma environment. Okay. Now, by default in Figma, most of the plugins are available off the right-click menu, and you can find them ones that you've used off plugins. In this case, I'm going to select the Conversis Translation XML Text Export and Import plugin. Okay. This is the default dialog that comes up. It has some settings, different options you can choose, which are outlined more in the help and on the community page. But for this demonstration, we're going to assume the defaults, which is what you can use when you are translating your entire design layout into other languages. What we're going to do is switch over to the Connectors tab and jump onto our Translate5 connector. By default, when you start, it hasn't got a Translate5 URL and it doesn't have an application token. You'll need to work with Translate5 to make sure to generate an application for your use, because we use the API to connect between the two systems. Otherwise, for this demo, there's this option here. We can click on the text and pull in the demo site credentials, which will allow you to experiment on the demo.translate5.net URL in your own time. First thing we do is we confirm all the info above and list all the languages. We select the client that's associated with the project we're about to work on. We can select the source language, which in this example I'll use English, and add some target languages. So I'll actually use French, which you can use by typing, clicking the plus, and German. You can also select multiple languages at once if you so wish and add them in all together. At the bottom of the dialog, we have this option, which is on by default, which is export for visuals. This, as Mark said, allows the content to be visually displayed during a translation process. It can be turned off for lighter transfers, but normally we just leave that on. When we click Send to Translate5, it's going to begin the process of collecting up all the information about the translatable content of the diagram and then transfer over the Translate5 instance. So I'll just do that now. Before we progress, it gives us a confirmation dialog, just asks you to confirm that you've set it up correctly. And if you're happy, you can click OK to proceed. As you can see, it starts exporting all the nodes. And we'll finish with a dialog confirming that it has been sent. From here, we can move into Translate5, where we will find the content arriving for translation. In the demo site, I'll just refresh this and we should see that the project is coming through now. Just need to wait a few moments for it to finish importing.
And to add here, everyone who just wants to try the connection can simply use the demo Translate5 website that we use here right now, and the credentials are provided within the Figma plugin.
As you can see, once it's finished importing, you get the option to open it. So I'm just going to jump on the French and start to edit. I'll do some very rudimentary translations. I'm not a fluent French speaker, but I shall do my best to present what we do during a translation process. I'm just going to come in here. You can edit the string by double-clicking and put some translated text in these segments. I can use the control insert to copy all the text. And I'm just putting in the words FR or French, just so that we can see the text once it's imported at the end. Okay, as you can see, the text is updated on our visual sort of preview as we're updating it. I'll just do one more over here, and then we'll stop there. Obviously, normally you'd expect the complete translation to be completed before we're doing any importing, but for this demonstration, I'm just going to do a few frames, a few segments. Okay. Presuming once the translation is finished, you've notified the client, or you go back to the Figma environment yourself. Process is you need to make a duplicate of the main file you sent out. So I'll just do a quick duplication here. And then you generate a duplicate for each language that you want to import.
Ian, can you briefly explain why you do a duplicate?
You do a duplicate because there is unfortunately no way to, say, clone a design during the process. Each of the plugin works directly on the actual design. So this is the way we can get the content entirely into the foreign language without risk of overwriting the source. And it gives us a separate document. As you would sort of, in a normal translation process, you'd have a source file going, it would spit out 7 or 8 target files. Because of the way this process works, we can't do that in the plugin ourselves, but it's very quick to do a duplicate and then import the translation. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to change this to _French so we know it's my French file for importing, and I will try and type it correctly. And then I can return to the plugin and return back to the Translate5 connector. We can confirm the info language list. Again, we can move over to the Retrieve tab, and we can click this button to list all available target languages. What it does is it goes back to Translate5 site, checks to see which tasks have a corresponding target language for this file that was uploaded, and lists them all here. It does list currently files that are not complete, but I guess the idea is that the translator communicates with the project manager when it's finished, and then that's when the client or the user would go in and download the translation. Once you've listed it, simply select the language you're looking to import, and hit import selected language. It just gives a confirmation. So this confirmation is to make sure that, as I said, you've done the duplication, because you don't want to start importing your French translations on top of your original English file. This is a chance of just double checking that you're doing it and you're doing it on the right file. It is possible potentially to try and import the translations from one file on top of another in the manual import process. That's not part of the link, so this dialog comes from that. So you pretty much just press OK at this point. Okay, if there are any issues it had during the process, it will put them in the error log. Otherwise, it should finish. And you can see from what we did earlier on, we now have the French translated text within the diagram. And then can be edited for further editing, layout adjustments, etc., as you do with any sort of design file post-translation.
That's great. Thank you, Ian, for showing that. Can you also show us how to install the plugin?
I can, yes. I've set up another account here in Microsoft Edge so that we can walk through it. Basically, we have the option here of the plugins. There's this dialog or resources here on the thing, or we can hit the right-click menu and do plugins, manage plugins. And it gives us a list of the plugins here. So if we search for the word Conversis, it will bring up this thing, and then we can choose to run it. Once you run it the first time, it will appear in your right-click plugins menu under the recents at the top, so you can use it again and again. You can also alternatively search for it in the community by searching for Conversis in the top and hit the try it out button. And that should bring it again to your Figma note. When you hit try it out, mind you, it does start a new design. But again, same thing. We can run it once. Once we run it the first time, it's available on the right-click menu. One thing I will say is that when you are using this to translate content, exporting will work on any design with any text. But if you do have the issue we see here in the top right-hand corner where you don't have the fonts, it will not update the text. You can read more about it in the community topic I have on it. But this is a limitation of Figma. Obviously, if you're trying to import text onto a text string where you don't have the font, it can't render it properly. So it is a requirement that you do have all the fonts you're using to import at the import time. Now, I'd imagine the person that's created the diagram would definitely have those. I'm just flagging this up here as an issue that's been spotted along the way. Support, there are a couple of places you can go to. So on the community page, there is my email address, which can be clicked on. If I can scroll down, it sits over here. For every plugin that's on Figma, there is a support email available. Or by all means, do add some stuff in the comment section, and I will try and get back to you with any support that you need.
Yeah, and if you have questions or support questions for Translate5, then you can go to translate5.net and get in touch with us. Maybe you can open the site in translate5.net. Yeah, and there you can get in touch with us if you go on the people behind and then contact.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. And have fun with the integration that Ian wrote.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.